All right, so are you ready to blast off with me? Because we're diving deep into Spaceman today.
Always ready.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Glad to hear it. So we've got this really interesting review to guide us. And I gotta say, even I was a little thrown to see Adam Sandler at the helm of a sci-fi drama.
Yeah, you don't exactly picture him in a spacesuit, do you?
Not really. It's like less Billy Madison and more like that intensity he had in Uncut Gems. Right?
For sure. It's actually pretty cool how this movie takes those hints of dramatic talent we've seen from Sandler and throws him into this totally different world. I mean, he plays Jakub, this Czech astronaut sent on a solo mission.
Let's talk about setting the stage for some serious introspection.
Right. From the get-go, it's going to be heavy.
And the review talks about these long, silent shots of him just drifting through space.
Yeah.
It's like they're really trying to create that overwhelming sense of isolation.
If you were a fan of the visual style in Ad Astra, you'll probably dig this one too.
Oh, I can totally see that. So we've got this isolated astronaut vibe going on. And then out of nowhere comes this spider-like alien Hanush.
Giant spiders in space. Not my idea of a good time.
Nope, not mine either.
Yeah.
But the review actually makes it sound less terrifying and more, like, strangely soothing.
Which is even weirder when you think about it.
Okay, so picture this giant space spider, right? And the voice they got for it is Paul Dano.
Whoa, okay, that's a combo I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, right? So you've got this creepy, crawly image mixed with Dano's voice, which is always so calm and kind of measured. It's giving me chills already.
It definitely adds a whole other layer of intrigue to the character, that's for sure.
But then the big question is Hanush even real, or is he just some figment of Jakub's imagination? He's out there completely alone dealing with this massive mission.
It's like that whole Solaris thing where you can't tell what's real and what's a hallucination.
Exactly. And speaking of Jakub's mental state, we can't forget about the whole troubled relationship angle.
Oh, right. The flashbacks to his marriage.
Yeah. The review says they use these fragmented flashbacks to show how his relationship with Lenka, played by Carey Mulligan, is falling apart.
They're going for that eternal sunshine of the spotless mind kind of feel, where memory shapes how we see those relationships.
I see what they're trying to do there.
Yeah.
But from the sounds of it, it doesn't really pack the same emotional punch. Like, we don't get enough of their backstory to really feel the weight of the loss.
Yeah, it seems like maybe they're struggling to balance these big cosmic ideas with a more grounded human story. And that might be where some of the pacing issues come in.
Because the review does mention the pacing can feel a bit slow at times.
It does.
But I wonder if that's intentional. Like, maybe they want you to slow down and really feel that sense of isolation along with Jakub.
Could be. It's definitely not trying to be a fast-paced, action-packed space adventure.
No, it's definitely more about those quiet, introspective moments, the internal struggles that Jakub is facing.
And that's where I think Sandler's performance could really stand out. We've seen him do funny, we've seen him do intense, but this sounds like a whole new level.
You really believe this guy's pain and regret?
And it seems like that regret is tied to this larger theme of ambition versus sacrifice, What are we willing to give up to chase our dreams? And is it ever worth it if we end up completely alone?
It's a question a lot of us probably grapple with on some level.
Hmm?
Think about a time when you had to make a difficult choice between something you really wanted and a relationship that mattered. This film seems to be exploring those kinds of tough questions in the context of space exploration, which demands a lot from the people who choose that path.
It really does. And we're just scratching the surface here. We've got this complex character trying to deal with his past, this mysterious alien companion, and this incredible, but maybe kind of slow cinematic experience.
Yeah, we've only just begun this deep dive, but I have a feeling it's going to take us to some pretty thought-provoking places. So stick with us as we unpack more of Spaceman and see what other insights we can unearth. So we were talking about this idea of ambition and sacrifice, and how it plays out in Jakub's life. The review mentioned how his mission to space basically cost him his marriage.
It's like so wild, right? Here's this guy literally reaching for the stars, exploring the vast unknown, but he's losing this incredibly important connection back on Earth.
Yeah, I know. It makes you wonder if he went to space to escape his problems. Like maybe the isolation of space felt more comforting than dealing with a messy relationship.
That's a good point. And then you throw in this alien Hanush, who just adds another layer to the isolation. The review describes him as both mesmerizing and grotesque.
So he's like a beautiful nightmare.
Kind of. He moves really slowly and deliberately. And the closer he gets to Jakub, the more suffocating it becomes. It's like he's a physical manifestation of Jakub's inner struggles.
Okay, that image of this creepy spider alien getting closer and closer is seriously freaking me out. But it also makes me think about how we all have those things that haunt us.
Yeah.
Those anxieties or regrets that we try to ignore, but they just keep looming larger.
That's such a great observation. And I think the brilliance of Paul Dano's voice acting is that it adds this whole other level to that feeling. Because you have this monstrous creature, but the voice is so calm and philosophical. It's almost as if Hanush is both a threat and a guide for Jakub.
It's like he's forcing Jakub to confront his inner demons.
Exactly.
Speaking of Jakub's isolation, it's interesting how the film uses those flashbacks to his marriage.
Yeah.
Like he's trying to escape the loneliness of space by revisiting those memories. But then you mentioned that the love story felt underdeveloped. Why do you think that is?
Well, the review didn't go into a ton of detail, but it did say that the flashbacks, while visually stunning, they don't really delve deep enough into the relationship itself. We see these glimpses of their love, but we don't fully understand why it fell apart.
It's like watching a movie about a painter, but all you see are the finished paintings. You don't see the process, the struggles, the inspiration. You miss out on the story behind the art.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Thanks, I thought so.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what's happening with the love story in Spaceman.
Yeah, maybe. And that lack of depth might contribute to the pacing issues that the review brought up. If we don't fully connect with the love story, those flashbacks might feel more like interruptions to the main plot.
Like when you're reading a book and you find yourself skimming over paragraphs that don't really grab you.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, some viewers might have that experience with the flashbacks, but then again, some might find those quiet moments to be the most powerful parts of the film.
And that's what's cool about film, right? It's all subjective.
Yeah.
What speaks to one person might not connect with another.
Exactly. But for those who are into Spaceman, I think it offers a pretty unique perspective on classic sci-fi themes.
For sure. It's not just about exploring space. It's about exploring human emotion, loneliness, regret, yearning for connection. It's about what it means to be human even when you're surrounded by the emptiness of space.
Yeah, it's kind of like Interstellar in that way. Even if Spaceman doesn't quite reach that same level of depth. Both films are asking these big questions about what drives us, what we're willing to sacrifice, what ultimately matters most in life.
And that makes me wonder, what would you do if you were in Jakub's shoes? If you had the chance to go on this amazing mission, but you knew it might cost you everything?
That's a tough one. There's no easy answer.
Definitely not. But I think that's what Spaceman is trying to make us think about, those difficult choices, the consequences of chasing our dreams.
It's a lot to unpack. But as we continue this deep dive, let's keep those questions in mind. Let's see how the film handles these themes, how Sandler brings them to life, and what message it leaves us with as we return from our journey into Spaceman. All right, so we've made it back from the vast expanse of space. Our journey with Spaceman is coming to an end. What are your final thoughts? Did it live up to all the hype?
Well, I'd say it's a bit of a mixed bag. There are definitely some really strong points, like Sandler's performance and the way they designed Hanush. Visually, it's stunning. But then there are those pacing issues in that love story that just didn't quite hit the mark. It prevents the movie from being truly great.
Yeah, it does feel like they were trying to do a lot. Juggling all these big ideas like isolation, regret, ambition, sacrifice. And maybe some of them got lost along the way. But for me, honestly, the most interesting part was Sandler. I mean, who knew the guy from Happy Gilmore could pull off such a complex and emotional role?
I know, right? It really shows how versatile he is as an actor. And I think it challenges how we usually see him. He brings this real vulnerability to Jakub, this astronaut who is lost both literally and figuratively. You can see the weight of his past on his face, the loneliness in his eyes. It's a huge departure from his comedic roles, and it makes you really connect with Jakub and his struggles.
And it's not just Sandler for it. Paul Dano's voice work as Hanush is amazing too. That creepy spider alien mixed with Dano's calm, philosophical voice. It's so unsettling, but also strangely compelling. Like Hanush represents both Jakub's fears and his hopes.
Yeah, it's like he's urging Jakub to face the darkness, but also offering him a glimpse of something more, something transcendent. And visually, the way they show Hanush slowly getting closer to Jakub throughout the film, it's brilliant. It's like a visual metaphor for how those inner struggles can consume us.
Totally. And the sound design too. The creaking of the spaceship, the whispers of Hanush's voice, it all builds this incredible tension. So even if the story itself is a bit uneven, the technical aspects of the film are top-notch.
Absolutely. Which brings us back to the pacing. The review mentioned it as a negative, but I'm wondering if it's more about perspective. Maybe some viewers will actually find those slower, more contemplative moments to be the most powerful parts.
Yeah, it's true. Spaceman isn't a movie that spells everything out for you or rushes through the plot. It wants you to sit with the characters, to experience their loneliness and introspection. If you're looking for explosions and car chases, this isn't the film for you.
Right. But if you're into sci-fi, that's more about exploring the human condition, then you might really appreciate Spaceman. It's like the difference between fast food and a gourmet meal. Both can fill you up, but the experience is totally different.
That is a perfect analogy. And at the end of the day, it comes down to personal preference. What resonates with one person might not do anything for someone else.
And that's what makes art so interesting, right? Sparks different reactions. So to our listener, I'd say go into Spaceman with an open mind. Don't expect a straightforward story. Just let yourself get lost in the atmosphere, the visuals, the performances. See what speaks to you.
Maybe you'll connect with Yakub's struggles, or be fascinated by Hanush. Or maybe you'll just find yourself thinking about the vastness of space, whatever you take away from it. I hope this deep dive has given you a better sense of what to expect from Spaceman.
It's definitely a film that will stay with you, and even though it takes place in space, the themes are so human. Love loss, ambition, sacrifice, the search for meaning in a chaotic universe.
It's something we can all relate to. So keep looking up at the stars, keep asking those big questions, and keep exploring the universe, both out. Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. This time we're going to be taking a look at the movie Spaceman.
Right.
And I have to say, I am so excited to talk about this one.
Yeah.
I think the source material we've got here is absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, definitely.
And so for anyone listening who hasn't seen the movie yet and is maybe wondering, like, what are some of the things that are so cool about this one, I think this is going to be the episode for you.
Absolutely.
So let's just jump right in.
Let's do it.
First of all, Spaceman is based on a novel called Spaceman of Bohemia.
By Jaroslav Kalfa.
By Jaroslav Kalfa.
That's great.
Now, I don't know about you, but I actually had a chance to read this book before I even knew that they were making this movie.
Okay.
And let me tell you, it's not your typical, like, space adventure.
Right.
It gets really deep into, like, the political landscape and the historical context, especially of, like, the late 20th century. And so Jakub, the main character, his mission is so much more than just like a scientific exploration.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it really makes you think about the Cold War and that whole era and how it kind of bleeds into this story.
Yeah, it's like Cold War vibes in space.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you've got this one guy who's representing a nation that's like on the brink.
Right on the edge.
And he's going out into the unknown, and it's like, what kind of pressure is that on this one person's shoulders?
Yeah. And it's not just the science. It's like he's carrying the weight of history with him, too.
Absolutely. And speaking of interesting choices for this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Adam Sandler.
Adam Sandler as an astronaut.
I know, right?
Who would have thought?
When I first saw that, I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Is this like a comedy? Is this a serious movie? What's going on here?
Right.
But then you remember, okay, he was in Uncut Gems.
Exactly, yeah.
And he actually can pull off these like dramatic roles.
Yeah, he's got the range.
He does have range.
Yep. It's really pretty incredible when you think about it.
I'm really curious to see how his comedic timing, which we all know and love. You know, like, will that play into this role?
Yeah.
Or will he like totally go like serious dramatic mode?
Yeah. Is it going to be like a subtle, like dark humor? Or is it going to be like full on intense, you know?
Right. Like, will it even work?
Yeah. Will it take you out of the movie or will it like add this whole other layer to it?
Totally. And the person who has to balance all of that is the director, Johan Renck.
Johan Renck, yeah.
Now, this is his feature film debut.
Really?
I know.
Wow.
Crazy, right?
I didn't realize that.
But if you've seen Chernobyl,
oh, yeah.
You know this guy knows how to build tension.
Oh, he is a master.
Like, he's got these long shots, the realistic details.
Yes.
And you just feel like you're right there in the middle of it all.
Absolutely. I mean, the way he builds suspense, it's amazing. Like, you're on the edge of your seat the whole time.
Right. And now he's taking that and he's putting it in space.
Oh.
Like, how is he going to show us what it feels like to be completely isolated?
Yeah. How do you make space feel claustrophobic?
I know.
It's going to be interesting.
I'm thinking like Solaris, you know, like Interstellar, where like space itself becomes like another character in the movie.
Totally. And like the psychological effects of that isolation, you know?
Yeah.
Like, how do you visually represent that?
And then there's this other character.
Okay.
Hanush.
Hanush.
He's voiced by Paul Dano.
Oh, wow. Paul Dano. That's a great choice.
I know. And they describe his voice as like eerie and unsettling.
Oh, that's perfect for him.
I know.
He can do that so well.
Like, think about there will be blood.
Yes,
He
exactly.
can be so intense with just his voice.
It's amazing how much emotion he can convey with just his voice.
Yeah, and like voice acting in general, it's like a whole other level.
Totally. You have to create a whole character with just your voice.
Right, like all the nuances and everything.
Yeah, it's incredible.
So to have someone like Paul Dano, who's already so good at that,
Right.
like what is Hannersh going to be like?
Yeah. What kind of presence will he have in the film?
And you know what's really interesting?
What's that?
Spaceman is also drawing inspiration from Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind,
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
which Paul Dano was also in.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. That's interesting.
I know. So like, are there going to be these like connections?
Yeah, like thematic connections or even character parallels.
Exactly.
That's
It
fascinating.
makes you think like, what kind of movie are we really dealing with here?
Yeah, it's like a puzzle.
It is.
All these different pieces coming together.
Yeah, you've got Cold War tension.
Mm-hmm.
You've got space exploration.
Mhm.
You've got Adam Sandler.
Adam Sandler, yeah.
You've got this director who's amazing at creating atmosphere.
Right.
And then you've got Paul Dano voicing this like eerie character.
It's a lot to take in.
It's a lot to take in.
I'm really curious to see how it all comes together.
It
And
is
like, will it be a masterpiece? Or will it be a total flop?
And I think that's a question for all of you listening.
Yeah.
Like, think about the source material.
Yeah.
Think about these actors. Think about the director.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think Spaceman is going to be like?
Yeah. Let us know.
Let us know your thoughts.
We want to hear from you.
And go see the movie.
Yes, definitely check it out.
And then come back and tell us what you thought.
Exactly.
See you next time.
See you later.